Your environment is a reflection of who you are. If you are not happy with your assistant, there's a reflection of your assistant in you. There's something that you are not happy with what you're doing. It's you, it's your bias. Do not judge other people on their actions and then judge you and judge yourself on your intent. No. Be effective. Be an effective communicator. Be a clear communicator. Be consistent. And I think if there's anything you're going to leave people with is that you have to have a system. And the system has to be genuine. You have to have a system and it has to be repeatable. You can't have random words and you can't have random days. You just cannot do that, man, because young people, that's not how you change their behavior. That's not how you modify their behavior for the positive, because we are habit modifiers.
Welcome to Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. Each episode pulls back the curtain on the coaching profession, spotlighting voices from every level of the game and offering lessons and insights for your own path. But first, a word from CoachComm.
When the game's on the line, your play call can mean the difference between winning and losing. Don't let poor communication cost you the game. For 35 years, CoachComm has been the trusted leader in coaching communication, delivering solutions with unmatched sound quality, performance, and durability. That's why thousands of coaches in high schools across the country trust CoachComm. You put in the hours to prepare. Make sure your communication delivers when it counts. CoachComm, giving coaches the ultimate competitive edge. Visit CoachComm.com to learn more.
Follow Inside the Headset on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content. Now, let's get inside the headset.
Coach Kaz, what's going on, brother? How are you?
Hey, excited to be here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Fired up to get on. You've been waiting. What took so long? I should have got the phone call.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I tell you what, I'm excited because I just kind of tell you beforehand. I'm a Baylor alum. Played football at Baylor, and you came in right after, and a bunch of my teammates, man. I mean, I'm talking about immediately. Hit me up, man. This dude is different. It's such a different energy down here, and a lot of the success that kind of came during that time frame at Baylor. A lot of those guys that I know, you're a big part of it.
That's awesome.
Hopefully that kind of means something to you there. But just know, guys, speak definitely positive about you. But before we start every podcast, the first thing we kind of ask is, when did you know you want to be a part of this great profession?
I'll tell you like this. I think I took the awkward route. I never really wanted to accept that I was going to be a coach. I had like mixed feelings about the coaching profession because the energy that you wanted as an athlete, you didn't want your coaches to come out there and kind of like, walk around. You wanted coaches to be upbeat when they were around you. So I think I knew I wanted to be a different type of coach, be a little bit more energetic for the guys, but I didn't want to admit that I was going to be in the coaching profession. It took me a while to admit it. Yeah. I think that was 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
Once I was like getting ready to retire. Right.
Now that kind of bridges an interesting topic. Like, we've had enough coaches get on this thing, and they were fortunate enough to play in the league. You had enough coaches that got on here and didn't play in the league, but the expectation was that they were. And sometimes kind of get into some conversation about letting the game go, how difficult it is. I'm talking about putting the cleats up, not necessarily coaching, but obviously you were fortunate enough to be in the league for a while. Played at Tulsa, 92 to 96, 6th-round draft pick with the St. Louis Rams. Then went and played CFL ball for a year up in Montreal. Then to the Chiefs, to the Bills, in Europe for a little bit. Back to the Chiefs. You kind of had an NFL career, and at some point, I mean, I don't think it's ever a great time that a time that somebody wants to hang them up. But was it some challenges coming along with just hanging them up?
I don't think it was any challenges. I think it's because I'm not a traditional American, I would say. My mindset was a little different about the transition after ball. Okay. Because really, you got to take a look at it. I was fortunate enough to be a draft pick coming out of Congo. To me, I understood that the percentages of that happening was super rare. So I accepted it as a blessing then, Yeah. And then when I looked, it was like, you could play 10 years, but you don't know what was going to happen to you physically. You don't know how much your body was going to actually have to pay playing for 10 years. So by doing 5 years professional and 3 in the NFL, 1 in the World League and 1 in Canada, that was 5 total years. And I think I walked away healthy.
Yeah.
I walked away, mental capacity still there. Vertebrae, neck, back, lumbar, everything still there. So I really counted it all joy that I got to go ahead and walk off
Yeah.
on my own 2 feet.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned, coming over from Zaire, DRC, at the age of 8, I believe,
Yeah.
somewhere around there. Just perspective. I mean, because you already hit it. You felt like fortunate to a certain extent to be able to go and play professional football for 5 years. But what other kind of perspectives came with that? Finding American football, all the kind of things that comes with that transition.
I mean, I think that's what comes with it is perspective. I mean, you're looking through it, everything through a different lens.
Yeah.
Whether you want to use the term biases or whatever, the lens is different because I think you're a lot more grateful or thankful for what the opportunities that you're given, even for the experiences. You know what I mean? To me, every experience you have is a good experience because that's what life is, right? It's just the passing of time and you're just looking at the experiences, right? We interact with each other and then basically it's like we pick up a little bit of energy from each other and then we move on. And then hopefully you leave enough energy that somebody interacts with somebody and they feel a little better and they move on. But it's just a set of experiences, and that was the perspective. Nothing is bad unless you label it as bad. You got to experience it and that's what life is about. You are a piece of life experiencing, Shoot, it's like everything is a blessing.
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of picked up on when you land in the States. Everything is just so massive. Everything is just so congested. And a lot of people are upset about the hand that they're dealt. And you're just kind of looking around and you're thinking, why are you not ecstatic about the situation that you're in? Yeah. Like even driving up here and just being around and looking around, I'm always trying to look to see if, do you understand how fortunate you are? I'm a fortunate dude, man, for real. You'll never hear me complain about the hand I'm dealt ever. I do have some moments where I could be human for a second.
Yeah.
But that's just a moment. You'll never, ever hear me say I had a bad day in my life. I've never had a bad day, fam, ever. I've had some moments where there's tough, but that's human.
Yeah. That's
your central nervous system kind of responding to the situation. Yeah. I believe my body is my body. It does some things in automated mode. Right. This suit of ours, it responds to certain things, but the person you are, the spirit that you are, knows better.
Man, that's powerful, man. And I tell you why I had a moment in my coaching career where, man, I was at a tough job and, it was tough to win. It was tough to win on Saturdays and we got our butts kicked and I come home and I'm grumpy with my wife. And, I'm mad. Why did my receiver do what he's supposed to do? He did it 100 times. And I don't know at what moment I had this epiphany. I'm like, man, my wife has nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Why am I carrying this moment of?
That's your body.
Right.
That's the suit that you put on, just like you put on some clothes, except the way that we're woven so geniusly that your body is on automatic mode. Yeah. So your central nervous system is saying things and is responding to trauma and is responding to the experience and it's going through it and it's trying to figure it out. But the spirit that you are knows better.
Yeah.
So you got to barely make sure that if you can get yourself to think about the thoughts that you're having and think about the responses that you're having to the situation, it's like I'm responding negatively to an experience. Being able to coach young people is a gifted experience. How can they ever be negative? Someone else's son is playing someone else's son. Mm-hmm. The only thing I'm like, I hope these 2 sons walk off healthy.
Yeah.
Let's play this game. Let's go ahead and honor these people that are here watching. Let's honor the game by playing really hard. But someone else's son needs to walk off healthy with someone else's son, And then when we leave, let's go home to our families and make sure we tell them how fortunate we are to be in this situation,
That's right.
And so that's one thing that I think being a refugee, I think that's the thing that you come to the States with is perspective. Because when I got the scholarship offer at the University of Tulsa, I'm telling my mother and father I got a scholarship offer. My father's like, so you're professional? And I'm like, no, I'm going to college. And he's like, they're paying for your school. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, so you're professional? He's like, no. I said, they're paying for my room, they're paying for my school, and they're paying for my education. He's like a professional. I'm like, well, no, I'm an amateur. And he's like, man, stop.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, one of the things you kind of words you said there a few times was experience. Now we're going to kind of keep this as chronological as possible, but I mentioned I had the opportunity to just see you work, not knowing we'd ever be sitting in a room like this, but from a very firsthand perspective. And you brought a very unique, energetic approach to it. Just talk about your experience in regards to being able to be in the Tulsa football program with ex-coaches on the field, and then the strength coach, and then just all the experience of the different professional programs you got to play in, and just see the styles of coaching, the styles of how they manage the weight room, all those kind of things, those experiences that help shape you.
That's a great question, because I really think it did help shape me. It's like we talked about earlier, you just take in so much information from the people you interact with.
Yeah.
So Dave Rader was the head coach at Tulsa when I got my scholarship offer. He comes to my house and has fufu and native food with my family. It's like he's exchanged this time with my family, and my mother and father were like, "You're going to school there. You got a bunch of mail from all these other programs and stuff, but nobody's been to this house to be as interactive as they were with our family." So by the time I got to Tulsa, there was a strength coach there named Tom Cross. Tom Cross was old when I met him. Like, he was 80 when I met him. So, he coached for another 20 years after I left Tulsa. So he's a guy that really poured into me, because he took a whole bunch of time to make sure my technique was right as an athlete. I didn't even know about the strength coaching profession. I didn't understand it, but he's a guy that loved what he did, as an older man. He coached with a passion. He had certain beliefs, not everything you agreed with, but at the same time, you're like looking at this man like, this is an old man with a ton of energy, And then so when Tom Cross moved on, there was other guys that came through, like Jeff Fish. Jeff Fish was a meticulous guy, extremely detailed. Jeff Hurd was Jeff Fish's coach that also came through the University of Tulsa. So I meet these three guys, and I take on certain aspects of each of their personalities. Sure. They move on, and as a player, when I get drafted by the St. Louis Rams, there's strength coaches in there, and it's tougher in the NFL, because now you're trying to motivate a guy that's got resources. Right. That's a different deal than motivating a college athlete. Yeah. So just watching those guys work through that and the balance of that, you pick up on some of their experiences, on some of what they're doing. You pick up on how difficult it is to talk to a guy that's got however many millions in the bank. Mm-hmm. How are you going to get him motivated? Right. The motivation then needs to be internal. It needs to be intrinsic. It doesn't need to be an external motivator from you. Really, that person needs to be motivating you to coach them well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you kind of pick up on the skills of motivation. Motivation is a skill, and I think creating energy is a skill. And understanding that, the environment is a reflection of you, right, is a skill. So I think that's where I'm sitting there watching that. And so I'm like, okay, this guy's having a hard time getting this starter to get going. I wonder if he could interact with him better. I wonder if he could project himself better on days that they're not training. So I thought that's when you make your reputation, is on how you conduct yourself when you're not training. Yeah. They're watching you when it's not, the light's not on you, they're watching you and how you act. And then whenever they're around you, they reflect that. That's how I felt.
Let me ask you this, because that's got my gears spinning in my head. Because you're right. And honestly, from a football coach, it's not much different from a guy that can draw all the schemes up on the board, but just cannot relate with the kids, can't motivate, can't encourage, can't inspire. You see it, And from a strength and conditioning standpoint, when you talk about what you can do on the field, what you can do in the weight room versus this part of it, the motivating, is that really what the difference is from the head strength and conditioning coach at this school versus that school versus that school? Like, where do you start finding some of those key differences?
I think the difference from those head strength and conditioning coaches at a major university, I think it's like those guys understand, and those guys reflect this great, fortunate experience that they're going through. Mm-hmm. And so what it looks like is like, this guy's so passionate, and it looks like this guy's so enthusiastic. Or if you look at it closely, that guy understands how fortunate he is to be in that situation at that moment. Right. So what you're seeing is gratitude. What you're seeing is this abundance of joy, and it comes off like this guy's psychologically passionate. Right. No, he's just so ecstatic about this opportunity. He can't believe he's living a childhood dream. He can't believe this is even a profession, and that's the thing that really hit me, is like, I'm getting monetized for training. I was going to do this anyway. I was going to lift and run anyway. Now I get to do it with a bunch of wildcats, a bunch of young kids, a bunch of up and comers. and this is paying for my lifestyle. This is amazing. So now that's all you see. So it's so hard for me to sit still.
Yeah.
It is impossible for me to sit still. Like 24 hours go by, and if I haven't done anything physical, I just kind of look at myself like, why wouldn't you? There's people out there that are in, not as a situation that you're in that would have loved to have run today. They would have loved to have lifted today, and you're not doing anything. Why? You're choosing how tomorrow is going to feel by sitting stagnant today. So even if it's a walk, get up, go do something. Even if it's, just watching what you eat, I don't care. Just do something that shows the gratitude that you have for what your situation you're in.
There you go. Now, 2002, that was kind of somewhere towards the end of that year was kind of the end of your playing career.
Fortunately.
And,
and I don't want to interrupt, but
go ahead.
One of my heroes, and I say this out of respect to that man's family, but like when I look at guys like Junior Seau, I mean, this man was an icon, especially at linebacker coming out of USC. I mean, his ability to blitz and create havoc was legendary, and I wanted to be Junior Seau. So I used to rock the 5'5" jersey, the doubles, whether it was Quentin Coryatt at Texas A&M, he wore the 4-4s. So middle linebackers rocked the double jersey and the double number jersey. And then when Junior, his life ends, and then you see it's like CTE, and it's like that to me was a shocker. That day was a rough moment to see a hero. It came to that.
Yeah.
So like when you say 2002, careers coming to an end, I'm fortunate that it came to an end because it would have been the end of me if it was extended because of the way I was playing. My coach used to be like, you don't have to hit as hard as you're trying to hit. And I'm like, okay, but that's all I knew. I'm lucky that there wasn't 5 more years of that.
Amen. So, as we try to drop gems for young people tapping into the profession, whether that's strength and conditioning, whether that's football, just talk about what led to that Missouri graduate assistant position. How did you kick into the profession?
So, my agent tells me, hey, listen, you can play forever long you want to play, but it looks like you're going to be a journeyman. You're going to hop around from team to team. I can get you 1-2 year contracts, and then you're going to have a chance to make a team every single time, but you're going to have to beat out a draft player and all that stuff. And when they draft a guy and they give him resources, they want those resources to pan out. So I said, okay, so what's the resume going to look like if you play another 5 years? It's going to have 4 different teams on there. You're going to hop around. You're letting the job industry move ahead, and you're not closing any ground on these young and upcoming employees. So I decided to go ahead and retire. When I retire, you're sitting there trying to think, okay, now you're in the wilderness is what they called it. When by the time you retire from the league to move into just kind of like general pop in society, how are you going to function? You're trying to find, quote unquote, your identity, right? Because that's what people are trying to convince you is you are a football player, and you're hearing that, and you start your human body starts to believe that's what you are. You are a football player. And then all of a sudden, when people are asking you what you do, guess what you start to say? The word I. Yeah. And you start to say, what? These 2 words, I am. I am a football. What? That phrase right there puts you in a prison. That phrase right there associates you with your human body. I am a football player. That was not my identity. So I'm fortunate enough to have not said that phrase so much. So, you sit there and you go, okay, what are we going to do? I took a job at Sprint, and I worked at Sprint for 364 days. And while I'm working at Sprint, and I'm just sitting there going, okay, this is corporate. I'm wearing a suit and tie to work. And you talk about faking it. I got a suit and tie on, and I'm trying to act like general population, but people are like, what are you doing here? You're always upbeat. You're always trying to find time to go run, because I run at lunch, or I go lift at lunch, and I come back drenched in sweat. I put my suit and tie on, and they'll be like, what are we doing, man? Like, don't do this to us. And I'm like, yo, I'm just trying to figure this out. Because one thing I did know that sports gave me was like energy and just that, when you're fatigued, you feel like you're rightfully due to a nap. You feel like you're rightful because you're fatigued now. So anyway, 364 days, I decided to go ahead and call my old strength coach, which was Jeff Fish. He was at the University of Missouri, and he always told me he would hire me as a graduate assistant and teach me the profession. I called Jeff Fish. He's leaving University of Missouri to take a job with the Oakland Raiders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he says, but I'm going to pass your name along. He passes my name along to somebody that's one of my best friends right now, Pat Ivy. Pat Ivy is at the University of Tulsa, where I graduated from, but he's going to Missouri to become the head strength coach, and he played at Missouri. And he's also being represented by my agent, Bob Lattenville. So I meet Pat Ivy on a boat. This is a crazy story. We're sitting there on boats, and we're sitting having a great time. We get to know each other, and Pat Ivy gives me two choices. I can either come on as a graduate assistant, get a master's, and learn the profession and learn how to run your own program, or I can be the quote unquote black guy in the weight room. And he goes, what do you want to do? Because I could start you right now at $60,000 and da-da-da. Or I can give you $600 a month and you can be a graduate assistant, but you'll learn how to run your own program. So I decided to go ahead and take the long money, because we used to call it long money when you made a decision that was going to be, that was going to add up. Or you could take a short money. Short money would have been the $60,000 right now. So I took the long money, and that's why we're sitting here having a conversation.
So who got in your ear for the long money, or was that just some
self-reflection? I mean, that was just really my conversation and his conversation. We were sitting there talking because we already knew each other. He was like, it just comes up in the convo. You could take the short money, which is the $60,000 now, or you could take the long money, which is $600 a month. You have 2 kids at home. Your family is 2 hours from you. You could take the $600 a month, learn the profession, and then find yourself running your own program if you do these things right. Because really your resume is already being built because you were a draft pick and you have some experiences and you have some things that make you unique.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? I mean, it's one of the, personally, in my life, it's one of the greatest conversations I ever had.
Yeah, that's
So I took the long money.
Right.
And so till this day, I mean, I just talked to P before I got here. Till this day, we still talk about long and short money and decisions we're going to make. Well, what are you going to do? I'm always going to take the long money. I'm not going to take the immediate thing. And that's the delayed gratification, right? And so that's what it was.
So as you've been able, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, as you've been able to kind of lead programs and be mentors to people on your staff as they're trying to figure this thing out, as a bunch of young coaches, have you passed that kind of intellectual decision-making, that philosophy to younger people that, paid it forward per se?
To every single one of them. Yeah. It's just like, guys, and this is an experience. Even this conversation right now, it's like you pass it on, but then during this conversation, and then when we're sitting there talking about it, you're going to get a phone call. That phone call, it's going to seem like this is an opportunity, but opportunities can throw you off. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So you're trying to teach them, like, hey, basically, let me tell you a story. Get them stuck on Story Avenue. I tell them a story about that long and short money to everyone that we've ever exchanged energy with. Yeah, we worked with each other. They didn't work for me. We worked with each other. We exchanged energy for each other. We tried to create lives for each other. Yeah. So I gave them that story and then let them make their own decision. But I think they always end up coming back to an experience like that.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things I remember from both being a player and coach was showing up to the facility for 6 a.m. workouts, and there's some strength and conditioning guys that are wiping the mirrors down. They've been there. Coming back up there just to go grab something I forgot on my bag, and those coaches are in there still wiping the windows, cleaning their plates. Just explain kind of, some of the tough moments, and I know your perspective is different, so you might not look at it as tough, but some of those challenging parts of just being early in that side of it, in the strength and conditioning side.
Oh man, but it was like the environment gave back what you gave to it. It's, everything is a reflection of what you bring to it, right? Yeah. And so that's what you're doing. You're making sure that when we're not on and the spotlight's not on us, what do you see when you see us working? Mm-hmm. And you wanted those young men and young women to see that you were taking care of the environment. One of the most important things you can do when you get up in the morning is make your bed. Mm-hmm. Make your bed. What's that going to do? It might teach the kids to make theirs, but it's something just starting things off in a positive, just a positive atmosphere. Yeah. So it was about just creating details and and taking care of the environment and took care of us. You steal that a little bit from your old movies, your old Karate Kid movies when he's taking care of the dojo. And if you take a look at some of the old Bruce Lee stuff, I mean, all those guys took care of the dojo. You took care of where you lived at. The Shaolin monks are notorious for taking care of where they live at and the place that you get to train at, because you're fortunate to be there.
Right.
So that's why you're doing that.
Yeah. So you go through those 2 years, $600.
Yeah.
Taking courses up at 5 a.m. cleaning
But
mirrors.
check this out though. This is what's funny. It was supposed to be a 2-year deal, and Pat Ivy and I call him P.I., we're sitting there having a convo. This is one thing he told me, and we're talking back and forth. He said, you don't have a lot of time. And this is something that I tell some of our guys that played in the NFL and come black shirt for us. We call a graduate assistant black shirt. You don't have a lot of time because your resume is already being built, because people will already see that you spent time in football. I'm telling you. So it was like, you don't have a lot of time. They're selling you 2 years. He was like, if you don't hurry up and learn as much as you can learn quickly, I've failed you. And so we're sitting there and I'm like, you don't have a lot of time. And I knew that. I don't have 2 years. I have 1 at the maximum before somebody says, yeah, let's hire this guy. So the clock was on. So this is funny. I'm enrolling for school and they're like, here's a 2-year program. I'm like, I don't have 2 years. I don't have that type of time.
Yeah.
I got 2 kids at home and potentially another one on the way.
Right.
And so they're like, well, it's going to be hard for you to go ahead and pack these courses. I had to pack those courses. So really, I got done in 10 months. I got done in 10 months. And at the 10th month, Coach Dick Vermeil, Hall of Fame coach who drafted me in the 6th round, is with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's hiring. He wants to hire me. And he goes, come up here, let's do this formality, like an interview. I'm like, okay. So I tell PP's like, we're out of time. When I get to the Kansas City Chiefs, I give Coach Dick Vermeil my resume. Guess what he did with my resume? He threw it in the trash. He slid it off the desk and put it in the trash and was like, I know you. He's like, I want to know how you could help me. And when he did that, let me tell you, he wound up a toy soldier. When he did that, you might as well put a battery pack right in my shoulders, and that was it. From that moment on, I was like, he'll never see me tired. He'll never see me fatigued. He'll never see me not excited about being at work. When you hire me, that's it. I owe you. Yeah. And so that's how I lived. And so the funny thing is, Coach Vermeil came up and he was like, you're going to run everywhere every day? I said, every day. And so it became a thing. There were some real Hall of Fame players with the Chiefs that were sick of me running. They were sick of me trying to help them out. They were sick of me wiping down furniture in the weight room. They were sick of me trying to be upbeat. And, a guy I respect at the utmost, he's a center, Casey Wigman, longtime center for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was like, you don't have to wipe that stuff down. You don't have to help me. I don't need that rah-rah. I'm like, it's not rah-rah. I'm working for the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. What? And so, and that was just because Coach Vermeil, how I was excited that he even went back. After drafting me, he picked me again.
Yeah.
So that was the deal.
That's big time. Now, early in this strength and conditioning profession at this point in time, you've been in it from 03 to 06, and you had the opportunity to work in the league, look at it from a collegiate level. What kind of stuff goes on in your head when you're looking at what level I want to coach on, or is that even a
man, I don't even think, I think when it comes to college, I mean, you're just so fortunate to catch a guy, clay. They're clay mold.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're coming from their parents' house, and when their parents are looking at you, you see the look in their eyes like, will you help my boy become a man? How are you going to get some of the things that I've been trying to pass on to him? How are you going to make them stick? Because the world is a cold place if you're not paying attention. So that to me ended up being like this thing where it was like, this is how I'm going to earn my wings to heaven. This is how I'm going to make God happy, is by doing this. This is my assignment now. This is my purpose now, trying to get an 18-year-old to understand you're not going to be 18 forever. You're running out of time already. Yeah. So I felt like, to me, that was the divine appointment, was to work with an 18-year-old, help him get 19, and just try to help those guys think about the decisions, man. Think about the decisions, because really you have a thought in your head. Where did the thought originate from? Was it the music you're listening to? Was it the shows that you're watching? Don't let the thought run you, just identify the thought, but just a thought is just a thought. You know, don't follow through on any thoughts that you have if they're not your genuine or original thought. So just having those conversations with those guys and trying to say that it's just the right thing to me, it was a calling. So, you know, it still is. But with that said, I'm not opposed to the NFL. I just think it's important to get to the guys when they're young. Get to them when they're a rookie year, you know. But understand, grown men are coming through. These guys are trying to raise families too. I was fortunate enough to sit there in the training room, and I remember one of my teammates getting a phone call from his mother. No disrespect, but she asked for $50,000. We have practice. We're going. He's getting his ankles taped, and there's a phone call. I need $50,000. And I remember the look on his face where how he managed the stress. And he was like, why would you need $50,000 this morning? And he was like, I can't talk about this right now. I'm going out to practice. And he was like, I will call you after practice so we could pick this up again. I love you and I'll call you right back. And I watched how cool he was. You talk about learning. Mm-hmm. I looked at this dude get his ankle taped, and he looked at me and he said, that's the stuff you're going to have to learn to deal with. And he ain't blinked. He got his ankles taped. He went out there and had a phenomenal practice. I was shocked. I was like, wow, nothing good in this guy's brains.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that maybe just to graze the topic a little bit. I mean, it's realistic now that collegiate athletes are having this conversation.
Right.
Or in this situation, whereas 5 years ago, that wasn't the case. You know, what's your thought process on how NIL has kind of infiltrated that type of...
It's funny because we act like, you know, you hear people say, well, this is what they asked for. That's a weird comment. That's a lazy, whack comment. What do you mean? Who's they? Stop talking in general. You know what I mean? Who is they? This is what they asked for, or this is what they deserved. You know, I look at it like it's been like that. It's just what used to happen in the back door is happening in the front door. Mm-hmm. You know, let's just go ahead and be upfront with it. Yeah. That's all that's happening is everybody's being upfront with it when you're recruiting an athlete. But there needs to be a long conversation with the families that are involved. Understand that this boy, the moment you add money to his name, is going to become a man on you overnight. He's going to start looking at things more maturely. What that means is he's going to hurt your feelings at one time. He's going to tell you no. Are you ready for your son or daughter to tell you no? Because at one point, they're going to have to. You know, there's going to be a time where they don't feel like, hey, you know what? I'm really working hard for this. I don't think this is the appropriate time. And you're going to have to go ahead and say, I'm proud of you for that, because that's an indication of maturity. Right. You know, saying no to somebody you love has to happen.
And it's tough to do.
Yeah, it's tough to do.
That's right.
But I think that's the thing is like, you know, I don't know if the families and the parents are ready to be told no.
Right. Yeah. Amen. So now kind of getting back on track with you know, your journey, 06 to 07, you transitioned from Kansas City Chiefs to USF, take a trip down to South Florida, collegiate. What was the transition? What was it about? Why did it happen?
Doc, don't nobody love football the way Florida kids love football. You know, there's not a knock. Texas kids have facilities. You know, Texas kids have a lot more support. Mm-hmm. They do. They have community support. But once you go to the melting pot of Florida and you meet a Haitian kid, you meet a Dominican kid, you meet a Spanish kid, you meet a Cuban kid, you meet so many different types of backgrounds in Florida, and then you put them all on one team. And the head coach then was Jim Levitt, and he's a fireball. You know, that Florida experience was, I think, a great learning ground for me. You know, the funny thing about that Florida experience, I remember, I mean, I'm making barely $27,000 a year, but it was transformational. There was young guys coming in, you know, hey, coach, I had the best grades I ever had. I got a C today. You're like, a C? I mean, we're sitting here. I'm like, okay, what's the next thing we want to do? I'm gonna work up. I'm gonna get a B. No, get a C plus. Yeah. You know, just work up a little bit, but you're gonna have to be a whole different person. Yeah. And that was the convo. I remember that convo. Like, you can't get a B being the person you were that got the C. Mm-hmm. And I remember this dude stopping and just turn and look at me. He's a defensive back. What do you mean? I said, the things you did to get a C won't get you a B. Yeah. And I mean, those convos were crazy. Mm. I mean, but Florida, oh my God. Yeah. I'm telling you, it's a learning place. It's a learning ground.
you know, you kind of hit the nail on the head already. I like when I have these conversations with coaches and they talk about their early years, and I always ask them, you know, after they've talked about 3 or 4 spots, I'm like, which one was that spot where you had that growth? Obviously, you know, you at Missouri, you had the opportunity to open the book up,
Yeah.
learn how to be a strength and conditioning coach, learn how to program,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. Then you get the opportunity in the NFL. Most people probably would just guess that was your best experience, but you say the South Florida thing was really was really special. Just with these 3 unique stops and all probably kind of a little different flavor of what you were able to kind of extract from that experience. What made it South Florida so much different than the league and the other college opportunity?
You'll see a true reflection of you at South Florida. You would. Like, if you weren't being passionate, those boys gonna let you know about it. They were coming into football practice to get away from the drama of life, you know. But then you had to show them and make sure they understand. It count it all joy. Yeah. It's a privilege to be alive. It's a privilege to be able to say you're going through whatever. It's all a privilege. Don't fall for the illusion of this is a bad deal. Yeah. It's not a bad deal. But I'm telling you, those kids in Florida and some of the situations their families will put them in, they'll grow them up fast. Mm-hmm. You will see a kid that would come in, he'd be 17, supposed to be in high school, and the look in his eyes would change. You know, he'd go from a young boy to a man overnight with some of the issues that they had. You know, the way family members would pass or some of the situations family members will put themselves in. And you'll watch a boy turn into a man overnight, you know, and just how to deal with it because they still had to go out to practice. Yeah. You still have to practice with all these things going on. And you can hear it if you're fortunate enough to listen to some of the stuff like, you know, Ed Reed is talking about, you know, when he's going through some of the stuff at Miami. Yeah. You know, we had a cornerback named Mike Jenkins who ended up playing with the Dallas Cowboys. And we're about to play, I think, number 4 team in the nation. I think it was Cincinnati at the time. And he lost a family member, the night before the game. And it was to gun violence. And the stuff he's saying to the guys in the locker room to get them locked in, hey, I'm hurting right now. Make sure we go out there and everybody does their job. Stay focused, do your job. Don't let nothing distract you. Listen to what he's saying. He says, I'm hurting right now, period. And then he moved on. And I'm just sitting there as a grown man that's got, you know, a wife and kids. I mean, we're sitting there 3 deep and you're making $27,000 a year. And this young kid says, I'm hurting right now. And he puts a period at it. But everybody go out there and do your job, take care of your responsibility. Man, there's nothing more beautiful than that. Yeah. I mean, because they're warriors, not worriers. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we're great warriors. Right. We're not great warriors.
That's reciprocal too, right? I mean, you're able to learn. From that experience and seeing how powerful he was in that moment. Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, so you get that experience and then, come to the great Baylor University. I'm just saying that as an alum.
Good times, man.
What was the connection? How were you able to get your foot in the door here?
Man, I'll tell you, it brings chills to me to even drive to Waco. You know, I pull up on campus, you see the maturity of the campus. I mean, chills. Like, it was some of the greatest years of my life. I get a call from a guy named Larry Jackson. He's the head strength coach at Cleveland Browns right now. Larry was the head strength coach at Texas A&M, and then he was the coach. He was the head strength coach at Houston with the Cougars. And we meet in San Francisco. They're having a kind of like an internship, you know. And I got an offer to work with the San Francisco 49ers. But at the same time, Larry called me and said, hey, there's going to be an opening in Waco. Would you be interested? And I don't know if anybody's ever been out there and talked about the taxes in California, but the math don't math. The math don't math, right. And the math was mathing in Texas. Yeah. So I'm like, you know, all my roommates in college, they were from Texas. They were from H-Town. They were from Dallas. And all I heard was great things about Texas. Mm-hmm. You know, dollar goes a long way and just to beat the people. Yeah. And so I was excited, really excited to get to Texas. And my family, they were nervous about coming. They're thinking, was Waco small? And by that time, the media was doing this number on Waco because they were always talking about the stuff that happened with the cult. But I'm like, I didn't care. Yeah, you know, it was such a exciting time. I get a call, come down, and I'm telling you, from the moment you step on campus and the moment you meet guys with those Texas DNAs, it's just the way they interacted was different. I was told, hey, don't wear a suit. I mean, just come in casual clothing because this is a football position. I'm like, well, I want to get this job. I'm gonna wear a suit because I'm not gonna not get the job and be in casual.
Yeah.
And then feel like it's because of the way I presented myself.
Right.
So I wore a suit. And as soon as I got on campus, my man was like, why would you wear a suit? I said, you're not going to bury me in jeans, man. Like, if I come in and do this poorly, at least I'll leave with some dignity. And I mean, we hit it off. I met some of the best people I ever met. It was a great experience. Nothing bad. Great experience.
Now, once again, from my perspective, I thought you came in as the head football strength and conditioning coach. You came in as an assistant, is that correct?
No, I came in as a head football strength conditioning coach, and that's I think that's I'm trying not to get stuck on Story Ave, but this is what happens is like when I came in, Big John was here.
Okay.
Yeah. So Big John had done a great job, and there was time to transition. And this is the thing about our human skin and our human suit. You feel like when it's time to transition, you didn't do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true.
Right.
That's not true. It's an experience. It's time to move on, right? So Big John had done a great job. The universe was moving him on. It was time to get further education. So John was moving on. I was coming in, and I was the only person coming in, and his staff was still here, which is a tough situation for the head guy to be in.
Mm.
So when I came in, I'm in charge of football. His staff is still here. But again, I was fortunate enough to get some wisdom to say, I think you're going to have to surround yourself with some of your own personnel, So I came in, and a guy named Chris Roof that's still at the school now working in the Olympics was here. He came with me from South Florida. And then there was a guy named Adam Davis that came with me. Jeremy Weeks is a graduate assistant. And so that was the four of us, and we worked football. And really it was like, that's what started it off, was going ahead and saying, okay, they're human. They're going to be a little frustrated with the transition. They're not bad people, but there's a transition, and we have a tendency to look at transition like it's negative.
Yeah.
It's not, man. It's just the way life goes.
Yeah.
This is life. Life just does life. It's not personal to you.
Yeah.
It's just the flow of the ocean at the time.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting perspective. And once again, I kind of look at your career as a whole and just talk about this business particular. On the football side of it, they say you hadn't coached unless you've been fired. You're officially a coach.
That's the stamp.
Right, that's the stamp.
Yeah.
And just being on your side of it, how have you handled the transition over the years where it's not
you are the one that makes it a negative or a positive experience? Just you.
Just you.
Your human body, understand it is going to be frustrated. Its central nervous system and the way you're built as a human is to absorb trauma. Anything that traumatized you as a young kid or a young boy, a young girl, understand it's still in that body.
Mm-hmm.
So you automatically think back to when you felt like you weren't good enough when you were younger or something happened, right? Yeah. And now you're stuck in this trauma loop. You have got to ask yourself, where is this thought coming from? Where is this coming from? And once you identify that that's not me, that's my body. That's my body having a moment.
Yeah.
That's my body feeling like it failed. I'll give you an example. I got cut from the St. Louis Rams in my third year. That's also the year they won the Super Bowl.
Mm.
So how do you take that?
Yeah.
So you cut me. It goes back to that. It puts me back in that locker room where I tear a bicep. I'm injured. You're either going to have surgery or you're going to let your bicep heal. Let's send you to get recovery. I'm hurt. So they gave me $200,000. I'm in a new 4Runner, limited edition 4Runner. I'm driving away from one Rams way with $200,000 in the passenger seat. I get to the light. Guess who's crossing my path in the light while I'm feeling sorry for myself? There's a blind man pushing a guy with one leg across the intersection where I'm stopping. I'm the first car. I see them before anyone else sees them. And I got the limited edition 4Runner with $200,000 in the passenger seat. And I got the nerve to feel sorry for myself. I got a torn bicep. It's going to repair. This guy don't got a leg, and the other guy can't see. The guy that's in the chair is telling him where to go. So they're crossing the street. They cross slowly right in front of my forerunner. And I said, I'm sorry out loud. I said, I'm sorry. I'll never do that again. That's on me.
Yeah.
I said, I'm sorry. And then after that, like, the Rams do what they do with a grocery store clerk, because Kurt Warner, don't nobody know who Kurt Warner is. He balls out. And while he's balling out, I'm in the Olympic Stadium at Montreal in the Canadian Football League. And I'm working out in the dark at night. I'm working out in the dark. I'm running at night to get back. One of my proudest moments is I got back to the league. The get back is the proud moment. That's the journey. You know what I mean? You're going to get terminated. You're going to get moved on. You're going to get fired. That's not the joint.
Right.
You got to get back.
Got to get back.
So the get back to me was one of the greatest moments of my life.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. What I think is really powerful about that is the amount of people that pull up to that stoplight, forerunner, with the cash, and they're so worried about themselves and their situation. They don't see what goes on in front of them.
Man.
You know, and you have such a powerful position that you can help educate guys on seeing that perspective.
It still brings chills to me.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm telling you, I that moment, I go back to that moment so many times in my life. The second my body tries to tell me a different story, the second my body and my brain try to make up a lie or try to get stuck in a trauma loop, because that's what your brain does. Your brain is lying to you. It doesn't want to do any work. It doesn't want to be stressed out. It wants to take shortcuts. It wants to preserve energy. That's what your brain does. So it makes assumptions. And the moment it does that, I go back to remember those two guys. They were human beings. They were God's creations, and they were walking across the street in a bad way. Yep. And I think about that all the time. That's why you're never going to catch me not shining, Coach.
Yeah. There you go. Now, let's go back to this Baylor stint. You know, I kind of told you this before. I was at Texas A&M Commerce. Our offensive staff came down. We said we were just going to see what these Bears are all about. And, you know, obviously in my football world, I'm there to see Coach Browse, and you'll see how they run their offense and all that kind of stuff. And I remember like two moments from that practice. Moment number one was as I was walking out to the field, yourself and all your strength and conditioning staff and, you know, all four of those guys, and it seemed like there was a few others, where, I mean, as the kids were coming out to practice, were fired up, you know, and getting those kids fired up, and they were running out onto the field like it was the Super Bowl. Yeah. This was second spring ball practice, you know what I'm saying? It was just a practice in May or, you know, April, whatever time it was. And, man, I was like, you know, I didn't have the fortitude to be like, oh, man, Coach Kaz is doing some cool stuff, but that stuck out. I was like, man, that's different.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, if you think about it, just the exchange of energy. Right. I'm excited to be here, be excited for practice. And it was like just that little 2-second exchange with those guys, I think would help a guy switch, because we talk about your light switch. You know, so if you switch your lights off, they should come off. Yeah. But it's time to get excited. If you hit that switch and you can't get excited, you need to call a technician. If you hit the switch and the lights don't come on, something's going on. If you can't get excited about practice, something's going on, because there's going to be a moment where you can't get excited about a game. You know what I mean? You're a fortunate individual, and you're coming out here to practice at this university. It's a private school in the state of Texas with this community that supports it. So, I mean, come on. You got to be excited about it. So I felt like those guys deserved our excitement. Yeah. You know, any young person that's getting ready to go through physical preparation deserves your excitement. Yeah. And I don't think it needs to be fake either. Like, working with them is a genuine, like, I'm genuinely grateful for the opportunity. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not a fake energy. You know, it's not fake boogie.
No, it wasn't.
Because they'll call it out if it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They'll call it out.
Yeah. And at the same time, you're not trying to rah-rah them. You're not trying to convince them to go to work. You're just excited that you're physically capable to go to work. Yeah.
No, and I can attest to seeing it. I was seeing those youngsters coming down the hallway, you know, just man, I hope I passed that test today and all that stuff. And it was just crazy just seeing, like you said, the switch come on. So, and I'll mention this other story just from my personal perspective was had the opportunity to play you guys. I was at University of Louisiana Monroe. We played you guys home and away. And as a coach does, I'm sitting out before the kids come out for the warm-up. So an hour and a half, 2 hours before the game. And I'm sitting out there just listening to my music. And I watch these guys in all black and young lady in all black walk out to the goal line and just sprint I don't know how many hundreds. I'm sure you know the workout. And I was like, I've been doing this for a little bit. I never seen
10 will
this.
get you 10.
It was a 10. Is that
10 will get you 10.
Okay.
10 will put you on 10.
Yeah, okay.
You know, because you get to the complex. Check this out. You get to the complex after eating steak the night before, eating pasta, you know, and then you sleep in a hotel bed. You get up in the morning and you eat pancakes, and you eat again. And then pregame meal, guess what? You eat again. You think you get to the complex to go compete? Do you think that you're ready to compete, or do you think you might be a little lethargic? You're weighed down. You big belly.
That's
you know what I mean? The good life gave you a belly. You can't hunt on a full stomach.
Right.
You know, you can't. So it was like, get to the complex when it's time to compete.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, respect the ability to create energy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It is a skill to create energy. People talk about creating energy like it doesn't just happen.
No.
You have to work the skill. So before the game, find a way to get your 10 in. Whatever it is, I don't care if it's 10 push-ups. I don't care if it's 10 sit-ups. 10 will get you 10. 10 will put you on 10. Mm-hmm. If you do none, you'll get none, you'll give none.
Yeah.
If you do one, you'll give one, you'll get one. Because you can't create energy. You can't impact somebody. Yeah. You've got to create some enthusiasm. You've got to create some energy. You know, those 2 E's are a big deal. So the staff, it was funny because that was not mandatory.
Oh, okay.
That was not mandatory, but they understood, like, if I was going to do it and I'm the oldest guy in the room, then you're one of the young guys. What are you going to do to create energy? And I think that was a great moment because I didn't have to tell them to do that.
Yeah.
But they went out there and got lathered up. And then now when you come back in and you're talking to the guys, they can see the wolf in your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And now you don't have to say much, man.
Yeah.
You don't have to say much. And that's the lost art.
Right.
You know what I mean? You take a look at a lot of the young coaches, words don't lead to behavior change. All that barking you doing, all that talking you doing, that don't lead to behavior change. You want to change somebody's behavior? It's about habits. You know what I mean? That's what it's about. It's about habits and planting these seeds in their subconscious. What they're thinking when they're not thinking, that's where you want to attack. Right. What is your subconscious? What is your subconscious programming? What's the screen on your cell phone? That is what we're attacking. What music do you listen to when you just drive around? That's what we're attacking. You know, I got this shirt on and it says Ali on it. It just reminds me, you could be the champ, but you can go through hell too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You're
not too good to be up and down at the same time.
That's right.
You know, so these are reminders.
Yeah. Well, I to kind of get to the question here, once again, I saw that the following year. Then I saw as, that more success came and people branched out from your tree and from Baylor's tree as a whole. We ended up playing, Coach Montgomery at Tulsa in 15. And lo and behold, they're doing that same thing. And there's some guys that came from Baylor. And, my question is, this was your first opportunity to be a head coach and head coach for the strength and conditioning program. And you set the tone, you set the culture, you set, everything in regards to that avenue. How were you able to put such a significant and unique stamp on that deal? Was this something that you contrived, or did you learn this from somewhere?
I'll tell you like this, man. I don't want to. I'm always leery of the word "I" because now you're talking about your ego.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So there was no "I," but there was disfortunate behavior. I'll tell you a story. My parents came here. They didn't know English. Like they were refugees. My father was a reporter in Zaire, and at the time, it's not like the States. That freedom of speech, Pop.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about the freedom of speech in the United States. You're fortunate to be able to put some stuff joking about the president on social media and doing sitcoms and satires and joking around. You do that stuff over the waters at some places, that'll be the last time you do anything, And so my father was a reporter. And at the time, the president, Mobutu Sese Seko, that was not playing with reporters and anybody that was getting media. And so we were fortunate enough that there were missionaries in the area, and my parents were like, we're going to leave. So I remember that. You talk about trauma moments. I remember walking in the airport and passing military men machine guns bigger than my body. And at the time, you know, I'm probably 7 and change, gonna be 8 because it's cold. You know, and then when I say cold, it's cold when we landed in New York. So that's why I can say it's probably around my birthday because it's cold. But when I remember passing the military men with these big guns, and I remember thinking, I don't understand where we're going because it doesn't look safe. Because why do you need these guns? If we're going somewhere safe, why are we walking so kind of quickly? Like, I'm looking around, it doesn't feel good. And I remember like that trauma stuck. You know, you get on a plane and you land, and when you land, it's cold. And then when you land, guess what? You don't look like everybody else, you know, and then you have to learn how to how to maneuver. You know, you have to learn. If I give you $5, how much change do I get for this slice of pizza? You know, and in Congo, I'm not eating a lot of like cheese. So what I'm eating, what is this that I'm eating? And it's like all these things that you have to learn. But then you watch your father, he was a reporter. Now he's washing dishes, you know, and he's washing dishes to get you know, just food. And so they're learning English, and I'm watching them, and I'm learning how to be grateful and to shut up and work and not to complain. So my mother and father were really like these instruments of education.
Yeah.
You know, and then you watch them and you're like, okay, that's how I'm going to do it.
And that's, you know, you listen to all the podcasts prior to this, and then you tell that story, and it makes a lot of sense on how you see things and react to things the way you do. Just some of these moments early in life, and able to see and have this perspective, and that's awesome. Now, 2013, you were the AFCA strength coach of the year. You know, once again, kind of been an alum there right before you got there. I kind of know what I might have won 10 games in my college careers at Baylor. You walk out, 2-time Big 12 championship. You know, from your standpoint, what impact does the strength and conditioning have on what happens on the football field?
Fam, let me tell you, like, this is going to sound like I'm joking around. I did nothing that year. Like, it was all recruiting. And then it was all the athletes.
Yeah.
You know? Recruit healthy athletes. Let me say that again.
Yeah.
Recruit healthy athletes. Are they healthy in high school? Okay. Bring them to the door, healthy. Then don't hurt healthy athletes. Do no damage in the weight room. That's rule number 1. Do no damage. No damage isn't just physical. It's psychological too. Psychologically, do no damage. So you're always trying to build. Psychologically, you're trying to build. Words don't lead to behavior change. You can stand up there and articulate and wax poetically, but that's not going to change a young man's behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, they call you coach. Yeah, they call you strength coach. No, you're a habit modifier. So you have to learn how to modify young men's habits, you know? So that's the thing. Now, timing was on my side. I get to ride Haley's Comet, right? So this comet is burning through Waco, and I'm fortunate enough to be riding on the comet.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how I look at it. There was nothing I did that year besides do no damage, you know? And then the following year, do no damage because recruiting was so good.
Yeah.
Recruiting was so good, and guys were coming in and they were so upbeat. Right. Oh, and I'm not, I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but this is just facts. There was players out there that felt like they had to go to another school because we were out of scholarships. They wanted to come here. They saw the genuine enthusiasm that the student body had, and they wanted to come here. And so I'm sitting there, again, I'm fortunate enough to have just been like blessed with a little bit of wisdom to be able to say, okay, this is not you. This is a thing that's happening. So if you're fortunate enough to be in that situation, don't make it about you. How do you not make it about you? Take a deep breath, do assessments every day, communicate with your staff, and my staff will tell you, I remember I gave them a direct order. I do not want to see anyone hurt from anything that we do in here. Train them hard. Let's find ways to create an illusion of stress. So the illusion of stress would be how I would act early when the training sessions, details, discipline, determinations, doing your job, having dignity. Yep. And it was like, this is how I'm going to conduct myself. So if I'm around, they feel pressure, but do no damage.
Yeah.
And so if you take a look, and you take a look in the NFL, take a look in the NBA, take a look at any major sporting, how good are you when your players aren't playing?
The best ability is available.
Hey, so
Yeah.
that's what happened.
Yeah.
So that's what happened was like we trained them, but we trained them really smart. Chris Roof had a lot to do with that. Chris Roof is a coach's coach.
Yeah.
You know, he had a lot to do with that. He would look at the program and be like, if we add something, take something out. You know, this is how long we need to train. And he was great with the clock. He'd be like, you know, you're running down on time. We've been doing this for close to an hour. We need to be wrapping up. And it was that. It was making sure nutrition was the basis of everything we were doing. After nutrition, it was about sports psychology. After sports psychology, it was about character development. Yeah. And all these things had to be repeatable. They had to be down in a manual, because if it wasn't written down, then you weren't communicating. You were just conversating.
Yeah. If
it's not written down, then you don't have a system. You're just expressing yourself. So it was creating a system and making sure everything was written down, making sure the guys could repeat what was written down to their incoming teammates.
You said that was a lot right there. That one of the things that stuck out was timing. You know, timing in the profession, timing in the sport. You know, just timing in life, right?
Yeah.
You know, the story earlier about the Rams. You get cut the year they win the Super Bowl.
The year they won,
you know, and
the greatest show on turf.
The greatest show on
turf. And I'm
right.
watching it from the TV. Listen to this, Coach Mario. Listen, they went 0-8 in the division that year. The second year, 0-8. The next year they went 8-0 in the division. The next year you have a guy that was playing arena ball. It becomes the starter because Trent Green got hurt.
Right.
Timing.
Yeah.
It's all timing. Now, it could have been negative if I'd have sat there and talked bad about it.
Oh, yeah.
But I could have looked at it and been like, oh, woe is me, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of guys on that team did. The guys that left, a lot of guys, you know, addictions and stuff like that. No, you can't look at that.
Absolutely. And even, you know, trying to give you your kudos here, and you talked about it wasn't me, it was the kids that were rolling through
it's
this
never
program.
Me, man.
Yeah. You know, and so timing is just huge. And you know, I think as you look at the success that kind of came off that year, off of that time frame, I think a lot of people do look at it and they say Coach Kaz and that program and this and that and the other. And man, I'm not gonna let you be that modest, although you'll tell the story. I know you had a huge part to do with it just because of the feedback I've gotten from so many people that played through their program. But the term culture, I don't know if you remember it. It was some point in time an article came out and it talked about that players actually spend more time with their strength and conditioning coaches than they do with their position and head coach and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you hear that term culture, and we actually talk about it a lot on this podcast. You know, you paste that big picture on the wall, and you're like, "Hey, yeah, that's what we're about, family."
Right, yeah.
You don't say nothing about family, you don't do nothing with family,
man.
but it's just a picture on the wall. When you're much more active as a strength and conditioning coach, depiction of culture, you know, what does that word mean to you?
Again, you got to remember, I learned English. I wasn't born speaking English.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not my native tongue.
Yeah.
So when you take a look, my communication is body language, watching people, you know, and I think a lot of people forget that when they're interacting with a refugee or when you're interacting with someone that's not first generation English speaker. You know, so when you say the word culture and you say the word family, if I came over from over the waters, that's all I had was my old culture and my family. In my house was Africa. When you crossed the door, we ate fufu. We spoke Chiluba. When I'm speaking to my parents, I speak native tongue. I don't speak English, you know? So when you talk about culture and you talk about family, you know, those are deep. That's all you have, you know? And then you see it in your children, right? And so I think that was one of the things that was something that kind of frustrated me with coaching. Just because you put a word up there, that doesn't lead to behavior change.
Yeah.
Words don't lead to behavior change, you know? You got to have a trigger, something that triggers someone to change their behavior. What's the motivation? That's another word for trigger. What's the why? What's the reason? What's the purpose? Why are you dressed like that? Why do you act like that? What's the reason? What's the purpose? What's the motivation? What's the trigger for you acting like that? And then you have to find a way to make it repeatable. How do you make it repeatable? It needs to be digestible. It needs to be small. because if it's too big, it can't be repeatable. So what is that? That's, again, having the system, and the system all started, number one, with discipline. And then after that, it was two, was being detailed. And then after that, it's like, man, now you have to personify these things. How do you do that? And I was notorious for wearing the same gear to work every day. And I still have my closet. It looks like the bat suit because it's the same gear in my closet.
Yeah.
And I have 50 black t-shirts, 50 black sweatpants, and tons of black socks, black shoes that I'm going to wear to work. Why is that? It was just to make sure that I put myself in a creative mindset and put myself in an acceptance mindset,
Yeah.
you know, like, don't be closed off, be in a growth mindset, you know, because the light that shines, that's stadium day. Game day was the bright light, you know, so if I dressed different, then I might be off, you know, because you're sitting there trying to create these habits.
Right.
You know, people talk about culture. Culture is a baby. You know, people say, what's the phrase? You go out there, seize the day.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds violent, don't it?
Yeah.
It sounds violent.
Yeah.
Really, in my opinion, and I'm just talking about me, I'm not knocking nobody else's opinion, but feed the baby. You have got to understand that day is a fragile deal. You know, you are growing that day. So that day, when it grows up in the morning, the sun's coming out, it's like, man, you have this fragile thing. What are you going to do? You're going to have to feed this. You're going to feed it with positive thoughts. You're going to feed it with positive actions. You're going to feed it with making sure you interact with people on a higher frequency, on a higher level.
Yeah.
Make sure when you come into a room, people can tell you're grateful to be in that room. And then to me, that was like feeding the baby, because at the end of the day, when you got to 6 o'clock, 7 p.m., the day had matured. And now it was like, okay, now you put the baby back down to sleep, because now you put the day away. The next day, guess what? That baby don't remember yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
That baby don't remember yesterday.
Doesn't,
You
no.
got to feed the baby again, and you got to take care of it again. So to me, that's what culture is. Culture is something that you're feeding. Culture is fragile.
Mm.
Culture is, it's an egg.
Yeah.
You don't want to crack an egg. That's what it is. Unless you're going to go ahead and cook it, you want to make sure that you protect culture.
Yeah.
And you protect culture by the way that man in that weight room conducts himself and acts. For real. He is human. He's going to make mistakes. He is. But don't look at his mistakes and judge him just straight for actions, and then you judge yourself with your intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be a hypocrite, fam.
Yeah.
Because everybody's wearing a human suit. So everybody's going to have human moments. Don't do that. Don't be biased. Don't be like, well, this is what he did. And then at the same time, when you do something, you be like, well, I didn't intend to do that. Don't do that. That's weak talk. You know what I mean? Communicate at a high level. Give evaluations. Deal with them. Feed the baby.
Feed the baby.
Feed the baby. It's a baby. And at the end of the day, put the baby to sleep. The next day, if you have a kid, the next day, the kid needs to eat.
Needs to eat?
Yeah. So it's a new day. And that was just how I was fortunate enough. And again, I hate saying the word "I," but it's a word in English, and it's frustrated to say it. But I think, again, there goes that word. It wasn't. These aren't original. My original thoughts. These are going to Sunday school. These are being in church when I was a young kid. These are listening to Reverend Fowler. My brother's a preacher. My sister's a preacher. My great-grandfather's a preacher. I'm the only one saying I don't want to be a preacher. But where am I getting all this information from? It's from preachers. Where am I getting it from? It's from the scriptures. I just never say it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
These are not my concepts. They were written down. They're thousands of years old. They're thousands of years old. But I'm fortunate enough, for some reason, it sticks. And I think it's my OG, it's my grandfather. He's probably standing right here. He just keeps on making sure this is how I'm seeing things.
Well, I tell you what, man, that's a lot to take in. Obviously, you did a tremendous job from 08 to 16 there at Baylor. We spent a lot of time on that section. I don't want to speed through, but I'm kind of lump 2017 up together.
Yeah. Hit the Dallas Cowboys.
Take a job with the Cowboys.
Yeah, that was fun, man.
Ultimately end up with the Arkansas State.
Yeah.
Towards the end of that fall. So just talk about that year, what that meant for you. Obviously, the situation at Baylor was very public. You just get a chance to get away from that and just do your thing
Yeah.
and coach again, and just talk about what that year meant to you and the two different jobs.
Man, again, they're just great experiences. Again, you're the person that's in charge of labeling whether something is negative or positive and how you want to conduct yourself. And being able to be fortunate enough to work with the Dallas Cowboys, it's a great opportunity. There's people out there, that's their dream job. So I was sitting here working with the Cowboys, and I had done a decent enough job that there was a full-time job offer. And they came at the same time that the Arkansas State position became available. And it reminded me a lot of what happened with the 49ers and what happened with Baylor in 2008.
Yeah.
So I ended up saying, okay, stick with the script, go back to college. And I went back to college at Arkansas State. Blake Anderson was the head coach there. And it was another great experience. Blake is a young dude. He was fired up, and I think he graduated from Waco. Him and True Petit.
Yep.
They came out of here. So I felt like that was, again, the universe creating a path for me. So I took the Arkansas State job and moved my family to Jonesboro. And again, close-knit community. It was a good experience, man. It really was.
And I was in the Sun Belt for a while. I'm a
Fun Belt.
I'm a Fun Belt. Yeah. I'm a G5 guy. And, I just love that type of ball. But that's a much different environment than SMU, TCU, Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
Just what was that experience like, kind of doing that smaller scale of Division I football?
It just, again, it's funny. When things come back down and you break down to the basics, it just reminds you what you were doing before things got grand.
Yeah.
You just go back and you're like, okay, do you guys eat breakfast in the morning? They're like, no. Well, I don't know how we're going to be great if we got no fuel.
Yeah.
Because you're only going to do as much as you can tolerate. And then when you run out of gas, you're done. So again, what are we talking about? We're back to dealing with the subconscious. We're back to dealing with the decisions that you make when you're not thinking.
Yeah.
When you're not thinking, that's who you are. And so now we're sitting there going, okay, the first thing that happens in the morning when you get up, I want you to have a glass of water. And they're looking at me like, what? These guys might not drink anything till lunchtime. And we're talking about being great. You can't be great. You're out of gas. We can't be great. You tweaked your hamstring. You can't be great. You're tight. You don't have any fuel. Great that's just, you're using words now. So it was just trying to get them to have a glass of water, trying to get them to have fruits and vegetables at breakfast. Now you're sitting here saying, hey, anti-inflammatories, we're going to take care of your joints. All right, get some protein, get breakfast. So you make breakfast mandatory. Now you're sitting there, they're saying you're the head strength coach, but you're checking breakfast attendance.
Yeah.
Guess what happens when you check breakfast attendance? You get to check eyes. You're looking at people's eyes. Are their eyes clear? Well, if their eyes are clear, the guy got some sleep. When guys come in, they got a hoodie on and shades on. They don't want you to see them. So you ask them, hey, pull the hoodie down. Take your shades off. Look at me. I want to see you. And now you're like, what happened? They're like, nothing. Well, no, talk to me. What happened last night? Oh, me and my girlfriend got into an argument. Oh, everything all right? Yeah, she went through my phone. Uh-oh. Take it like a man. You did something wrong, take it, man.
Yeah.
Did you apologize? Yeah, I apologize. Get some flowers. You know what I mean? And see what happens, man. But breakfast is still mandatory.
Yeah.
And you'll hear a lot of things in the morning. What happened? My grandmother passed away. How old was she? Now you get to sit down. Hey, give me a hug. I mean, you giving out hugs. You're the head strength coach.
Right.
You're giving out hugs at breakfast, man.
Yeah.
Who told you that? I don't know. And so going to Arkansas State took it back to that. It did. It was pure, man. It was real pure.
Yeah.
And there was some really good athletes on that Arkansas State team, man. There was some dudes, man.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
The guy that was there before me, his name was Matt Shadid in the weight room. This dude was great. He's with Blake Anderson now at Mississippi State. This dude is a great strength coach. Like, I'm like, yo. So it was like, go there because you know the guys are going to know how to work. You also know that he's also done a great job with the details and stuff. So it was a no-brainer to take that job. You're going to be as good as the guy you follow. Because if the guy you follow hurts everybody, you ain't got nothing to work with.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, because typically I get coaches on here and they don't really talk too much about the previous.
Yeah, it's all them, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Word up.
Yeah, we had to change the culture.
Word up. Yeah, I bet you did.
And no, that's cool that you can get the kudos to, and the flowers to the
Yeah, Coach Big John, them dudes was not scared of weight, you know, and then go to Matt Shadid. He was doing. I'm telling you, these guys they put big weight in their hand, and they lifted it well. They had good technique, and they expected you to be upbeat.
Yeah, amen. Now, you have an opportunity to go to SMU, and SMU was kind of a unique situation. I can't quite remember when they really started that revival, kind of back to being what SMU was back in the day. You know,
it was June Jones. Remember?
It was June Jones.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So early 2010.
Yeah, shoot, it was June Jones because Cortland Sutton.
Yeah,
is a headache.
Yeah,
because he comes in. I think they're playing him almost like a safety at DB type deal, but he's catching more passes at safety than the receivers are catching at receiver.
Okay.
Cortland Sutton. Yeah. Like I don't think I think he has like one scholarship offer or something crazy like that, and he goes to safety or something. And then June's smart enough to move him.
Right. Yeah, and still a beast right now in the league.
Headache.
And so, you know, having that opportunity kind of get SMU up on this national pedestal that it used to be on, you know, from an X&O standpoint, just talk about, and from my perspective, I guess, I've always wondered what the similarities were from a Baylor to a SMU.
Yeah.
Obviously got the private school kind of feel to it. Obviously Dallas and Waco couldn't be more different, but you know, just what was it like taking that job after being at Arkansas State, kind of rebalance and reset a little bit?
I mean, again, it was one of those things where you're looking at it like this is going to be a great chapter in life. You knew going to SMU because of the history of the Pony Express and because of Dallas, you know, the background, you knew it was going to be a fun experience. Yeah. You knew you could make it a real fruitful experience. Like I personally felt confident going into that program that, you know, kids would come there. Number one, you knew they'd be able to run because they were all notorious for having speed with them, right? And so it was fun to get back to the state of Texas, you know. And I thought that we would end up playing a Waco team at some point, and we never ended up playing a Waco team while we was at SMU. But we did play SMU when we were in Waco from Baylor to play, but we didn't play SMU the other ways. But it was just a great experience. Right. It just was. And I think Chad Morris was there after June. He was there for a couple of years, and then we were able to come in after that. So it was great. It was great getting Dallas kids.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And just briefly, I know you talked a little bit about the recruiting, the recruiting and the type of kid that you were getting in South Florida. But, you know, Dallas is another one of those pockets, that Dallas-Fort area where, I mean, first of all, you go to high school, it's 5 minutes, and they got 7 Division I kids sitting in there, as well as the next one and the next one. Let's just talk a little bit about, you know, seeing the type of athlete from these two different areas.
I just felt like always that the Texas kids had more resources. And by that, I mean, they might have been privileged enough to have a guy that was in charge of the weight room alone, and that was it in high school. Yeah. You know, he wasn't a strength coach and a PE coach or a teacher. Yeah. You know, in South Florida, you know, the weight room didn't look like a Texas weight room. But the weight rooms in that area in high school, I mean, they might have a couple of racks and that was it. Trying to teach a kid to perform the correct technique was going to be a job in itself. Trying to create internal motivation for a guy to come in and and do a lift, because you have to associate the lift with how I'm going to perform. And that was a skill in Florida that was lacking. Yeah. You know, there's an art to motivating a young man to do something like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that was the difference. At SMU, I think that was there. Tremaine Carroll was the head strength coach there. And before Tremaine got there, it was lacking. The environment in the weight room was lacking. I'm not saying the strength coach, whoever that was, but Tremaine had to do a whole bunch of work to get equipment in there. Yeah. And again, it's just a reflection. You know, so he got a bunch of stuff in there, and we were able to kind of ride those coattails too.
There you go. And
I'm notorious for working for great strength coaches after they left.
That's not a bad deal.
You know?
Hey, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, for real.
Now let's kind of move to your last stop here. 2021 to 26, you had the opportunity to go over to TCU. And
Fort Boogie. Fort Worth.
Fort Worth, Funky Town.
Yeah.
That's where I'm from.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah, no doubt. And so once again, I mean, I don't think I've ever kind of put these pieces together. And as I'm looking at it, like 3 of your longest tenure stops are at this very similar setup, school with some kind of, Christian denomination to it. And then private, all three are private. Yeah. All three private schools. And, all of them kind of are the lone soldiers. I guess Baylor and TCU are together, but you're in here with all these public schools, these schools with 50,000 students, I guess. Just what were some similarities between the places that kind of, I don't know if it helped you or not, but just some similarities in those stops.
I think you said it there. I mean, I think, the institutions, a religious institution, it's a private school, but I think that there are certain characteristics to the kids that attend those schools. You'll hear yes, sir a lot more. They don't have a problem showing respect.
Yeah.
I think you're going to hear yes, sir. And this is what's funny about young people. I think they want to do the right thing. And this is not a knock to a state school, but I always viewed it as once a kid got on campus at a private school, there was something in his DNA that made him think this is going to be something that helps me in the future. This is something I need to do because I can see the long-term benefits to this. And so try to give them room to kind of, come to that conclusion, express that.
Yeah.
And so I thought that those are the three, those are the things that were the very common denominator in all three institutions was this underlining benefit to go into that private school, right? And so the community, tight-knit communities, they support the teams, and to me that was something, but I'll tell you the difference in Fort Worth, them jokers expect to win, fam. Like if they were frustrated at the team's output, if they were frustrated at the team's performance, you had to take that on the chin and you had to take it like a pat on the back. They're telling you to pick it up because, the coach that was there before had, 10 years of 10 wins and plus, and he had been there for 24 some odd years. So he had a history of, of whooping tail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was the biggest difference is, I know SMU had June and then, and Chad Morris had a good run, but it was nothing like going there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It was like you walked in the door, them dudes had scowls on their face. The first time I met them, like they were sitting in the front row with their eyes slanted.
Yeah.
Like they were looking at you like, how you going to help make me better, fam?
Yeah.
That's how they were looking at you. It's a private school, but they had state school personality.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that was the major difference.
Yeah. That was, I don't know if the sign still exists because I know it was very specific to the previous guy, but it was fight him till hell freezes over, then fight him on ice. And, I played in the Army before I came to Baylor. And at that point in time, we were in Conference USA and TCU was. And I remember TCU making that transition to the Big 12. Yeah. And everybody's like, can they survive?
Right.
And I mean, from the jump, they've just been good and dominant at times. And so, I can only imagine the expectations are huge and even coming in kind of.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. It's like if you take a look at any school in the state of Texas is going to have a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, you can point at any direction. And if you have a university that plays ball in the state of Texas, that university at some point is going to be successful. Why is that? Because they all get Texas kids. Don't hurt the kids.
Right.
Do not recruit injured athletes.
Yep.
Do not recruit injured athletes. Right. Communicate effectively with your staff. Evaluate your staff effectively. Communicate.
Yeah.
Right? Evaluate. Communicate. And then it's like, I think it's just that simple deal. And then those Texas kids, because they know each other, I don't know if you know, but I'm not going to let my brother beat me one-on-one. Mm-hmm. If I know you and you went to another school and we go to suit up, hey, I don't bar you. Yeah. I'm not listening to what ESPN's got to say about what they. It's me and you, Pop. I know you. I know you, man. Right. So that's how they play. And at some point, every school in the state of Texas has been extremely successful, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let me tell you something, man. This has been about an enjoyable podcast I've had.
Hey, I take that's a big compliment.
It is.
We ain't suck, huh? Yeah.
We've been doing it for a minute. We set the record for the longest podcast we've had, too. So that's also a good sign.
I missed lunch.
You might have missed lunch. But no, man, Coach, I've enjoyed it, man. And, just don't want to leave it abruptly. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of, you know, sometimes in this profession, we just don't get to stop and smell the roses. I remember Coach Saban in Alabama one time winning a national championship, and he's irritated in the post-game interview because he was behind on recruiting. You know, the other guys got a head start, and that kind of gave me an epiphany of, you know, just being able to enjoy the moment a little bit more, and being able to sit back and reflect, you know, all the way back to being 8 years old and coming over here and learning the language, and, you know, a lot of themes, which is really cool, have kind of permeated through all the questions. I mean, you know, you are who you are, and you're pretty true to it because, you know, it just kind of same themes kept popping up throughout your story. As you kind of look back on your career, you know, what's the takeaway? What's the nugget that if I'm a coach that's looking to get in the strength and conditioning profession or just football coaching profession, because there's so many similarities, you know, what's the nugget you want to leave them with?
I'll say this. Your environment is a reflection of who you are. If you are not happy with your assistant, there's a reflection of your assistant in you. There's something that you are not happy with what you're doing. It's you, you know, it's your bias. Do not judge other people on their actions and then judge you and judge yourself on your intent. No. Be effective. Be an effective communicator. Be a clear communicator. You know, be consistent. And I think if there's anything you're going to leave people with is that you have to have a system, and the system has to be genuine. You know, you have to have a system, and it has to be repeatable. You can't have random words, and you can't have random days. You just cannot do that, man, because young people, that's not how you change their behavior. That's not how you modify their behavior for the positive, because we are habit modifiers, you know? And then I say this, we are all extremely fortunate to be working with young people. Yeah, you get paid what you get paid. Congratulations. Do you think that you earned that? Do you think that you got that job and that salary because you're a better man than the next man? Is that what you think? Chill out. You ain't get that job as a head coach because you're better than the next guy. You got it because you're fortunate, fam. You were fortunate. It worked out for you. Be grateful. Be grateful for the young guys. Be grateful for the families. Be grateful for your situation. And if you happen to win, great. In 60 years from now, who's going to remember that?
I think that's a great way to end it, Coach. I appreciate the time. I appreciate you driving over, and we'll definitely be cheering you on as you kind of continue to move through.
Yeah, man, I appreciate the opportunity to come back into town, man. Shoot, it was good, man. You're a good dude. I appreciate this, man. Took a little long, but it feels good.
All right, Coach. Well, we'll let you go here, okay? I appreciate you.
When communication counts, trust the headsets trusted by the best. From high schools to the biggest college programs, CoachComm keeps coaches connected and teams prepared to win. Learn more at CoachComm.com.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. If you'd like to learn more about this week's episode, head over to AFCA.com. There, you can access every episode and find corresponding show notes. Remember, you can catch every episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm on wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. While you're there, we'd love for you to take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Your feedback helps us improve and grow. Keep up with the latest news by following us on social media. Connect with us at Inside the Headset, and remember to tag us when you share your favorite episodes. For more updates on all things AFCA, be sure to follow the @WeAreAFCA social media accounts. If you're not a part of the AFCA community yet, visit AFCA.com to join thousands of NFL, college, and high school coaches nationwide and across the globe. Elevate your coaching game with an AFCA membership. You'll gain exclusive access to the annual AFCA convention, magazine, digital library, and AFCA Insider email. Stay up to date with the latest stories and news on the AFCA website. More than just a convention, the AFCA offers continuous education, guidance, networking, and more. Celebrate the past and shape the future with the AFCA. It's about fostering exceptional coaches who create outstanding teams and even better individuals. Invest in your skills and make a lasting impact today by engaging with the AFCA. Your journey starts here.